Don't talk about it, be about it. Live like you are the best version of you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some people don't chase success? Success chases them? Same world, same clock, same obstacles, but different results. Why? Because they made a decision long before the results showed up about who they were going to be. They stopped waiting for permission. They stopped negotiating with doubt. And they started acting like the person they knew they were capable of becoming. See, most people rehearse failure every single day. They wake up, replay yesterday's mistakes, talk themselves out of effort, walk with their head down, speak like life already beat them. And then they wonder why opportunities disappear. But the high performers? They flip the script. They embody the future version of themselves now. They think like that person. They speak like that person. They move like that person. And here's the truth most people never hear. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what you vividly imagine and what you actually experience. That's science. That's psychology. That's power. Every great achievement in human history started as a picture in someone's mind. Before it was built, it was believed. Before it was held, it was seen. You've got to see it in your mind before you can hold it in your hand. Roger Bannister didn't break the 4-minute mile because his legs were different. He broke it because his mind went there first. While the world said, impossible. He rehearsed victory again and again until his body had no choice but to follow. That's mental rehearsal. And when you act as if you're already disciplined, as if you're already confident, as if you're already successful, your subconscious goes to work 24/7 figuring out how to make it real. No motivation required. No perfect conditions needed. You just show up as that person. You wake up and you visualize the win. You feel it, don't think it, feel it. You hear the sounds, see the details, feel the emotion in your chest. Then you stand up straight. You walk with intention. You speak with certainty. Because confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you practice. And here's the hard truth. You can either step into your future or keep rehearsing failure. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is going to believe in you harder than you do. Your future is standing right in front of you, asking one question. Who are you choosing to be starting now? The future doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to identity. Not someday. Not when you're ready. Now. Because the moment you decide who you are, your actions fall into line. Your habits lock in. And your world starts to shift. So don't wait for confidence. Don't wait for proof. Become the proof. Stand up. Breathe it in. Move like it's already done. Because your life will always rise or fall to the standard you accept. And it all comes down to this. Decide. Commit. Act as if you are the idealized best version of yourself. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to attract success effortlessly, while others grind, sweat, sacrifice, and still stay stuck? Same effort, different outcomes. That's not luck. That's not privilege. That's alignment. Because the real difference isn't just what they do. It's the invisible forces they've learned to control. See, the universe runs on laws. Not opinions. Not excuses. Laws. And one of the most powerful laws you will ever understand is this. Like attracts like. Your thoughts are not passive. They are not harmless. They are signals. Every thought you think is broadcasting. Every word you speak is transmitting. Every emotion you feel is tuning you to a frequency. And that frequency? It determines what shows up in your life. This isn't fantasy. This isn't wishful thinking. This is psychology meeting physics. In quantum science, there's something called the observer effect. Particles behave differently when they're observed. What does that tell us? That consciousness influences reality. So when you start acting like the person who's already won, when you think like them, speak like them, move like them, you don't just change your behavior. You change your energetic signature. You stop resonating with struggle. You stop vibrating at yearning. And you start operating at the frequency of achievement. History proves this. Thomas Watson, IBM. Before IBM ruled the world, before they had the results, before they had the dominance, Watson made a bold decision. He didn't tell his people to hope like leaders. He demanded they be leaders. They dressed like giants before they were giants. They spoke with certainty before the world believed in them. They carried themselves as industry dominators, while still coming from humble beginnings. That wasn't arrogance. That was identity engineering. And here's the truth you must understand if you want to change your life. What you focus on expands. This isn't motivation talk. This is neuroscience. Your brain has a filter, the reticular activating system. It decides what you notice and what you ignore. Feed it thoughts of scarcity, limitation, and fear, and it will find proof everywhere. But when you adopt the mindset of abundance, when you act as if the outcome is inevitable, your brain starts revealing opportunities that were always there. You were just blind to them. So it starts with your words. Your vocabulary is not neutral. Words carry weight. Words carry power. Stop saying, "I can't afford that." Say, "I'm allocating my resources toward my highest priorities." Stop hoping things work out. Start declaring certainty. Because your subconscious doesn't argue with you. It obeys you. Every word is a command. Every sentence is programming. So choose your language the way an architect chooses materials. Carefully, intentionally, relentlessly. Because you are building something. You are building your future. And it will be shaped by aligned thought, aligned word, and aligned action. So the question isn't if your life will change. The question is who you decide to be starting now. Every day you're voting. Every action is a ballot. Every thought is a declaration. And it all comes down to this. Decide. Act as if you are the idealized version of yourself. Remember this and don't miss it. This principle operates with mathematical precision. No emotion. No favoritism. No concern for your past mistakes or your perceived worthiness. It only responds to one thing. The signals you are transmitting right now. When you consistently feel, speak, and act as if you're already living your desired reality, something unavoidable happens. Your environment must reorganize itself to match you. Not because the universe is generous, but because alignment demands consistency. The greatest achievers in history understood this. They didn't wait for circumstances to change before changing themselves. They reversed them. They created the internal conditions first, knowing the external world would eventually be forced to follow. And this is where most people fail. The biggest mistake in the pursuit of extraordinary achievement is believing success is mainly about what you do. That's surface-level thinking. True transformation doesn't come from tweaking habits alone. It comes from an identity shift at the core of who you are. Let me show you the difference. There's a world of separation between someone who says, "I'm trying to get in shape," and someone who says, "I am an athlete." The first person lives in effort, struggle, resistance. The second person lives in alignment. They don't fight their behavior. They express their nature. That's not semantics. That's an entirely different operating system. One is pushing uphill forever. The other is simply being who they've decided to become. History gives us a masterclass in this. John F. Kennedy. Cold War. America behind in the space race. Did he hedge? Did he say, "We'll try"? No. He stood in front of the world and declared, "We choose to go to the moon." Not because it was easy, but because it was hard. That wasn't a goal. That was an identity declaration. He didn't speak like a nation hoping to catch up. He spoke like a nation destined to lead. And that single shift transformed ordinary people. Engineers, mathematicians, administrators, into pioneers who did the impossible. That's the power of identity level commitment. Now listen carefully. Your income, your relationships, your health, your results. They are not random. They are precise reflections of who you believe you are at the deepest level. If you want different outcomes, you must become a different person. So ask yourself the question that changes everything. Who would I be if I had already achieved my highest aspirations? Be specific. How would that version of you start the morning? How would they speak? Tone, certainty, conviction? How would they carry their body? How would they protect their time, their energy, their focus? Once you see that person clearly, you don't wait. You embody it now. Not as pretending, as a decision. Because this is the reversal that changes lives. You do not have success and then become successful. You become successful internally, and success has no choice but to follow. Identity first. Reality second. Always. Your nervous system cannot live forever in contradiction. You cannot repeatedly act like one person while believing you are another, without something giving way. When you consistently behave as if you are already the person you aspire to become, your mind experiences cognitive dissonance, that internal tension created when your actions and identity don't match. And your subconscious hates that tension. So it does the only thing it can do to resolve it. It reshapes your reality to match your new self-concept. This is how ordinary people have done extraordinary things throughout history. They didn't wait to achieve greatness before seeing themselves as great. They adopted the identity first, often when every external fact told them they were wrong. And slowly but inevitably the world rearranged itself to catch up. That's why this starts now. Write down clearly, deliberately the person you are becoming. How they move. How they decide. How they invest time, energy, and focus. Then live from that place. When faced with a decision, ask one simple question. What would the version of me who has already achieved this do? And then act. Not as visualization, not as pretending, but as an expression of who you've decided to be. Understand this clearly. This identity shift is not self-deception. Your current identity was already a construction, built from past conditioning, limited beliefs, and outdated experiences. You're not inventing someone new. You're uncovering who you were before limitations were layered on top of you. Now let's talk about the real enemy. Not lack of talent. Not lack of opportunity. Fear of failure. This single force has ended more dreams than any external obstacle ever could. It whispers that the pain of disappointment is worse than the pain of regret. It convinces capable people to live small, safe, and unseen. But study the great ones and you'll notice something. They didn't win because they avoided failure. They won because they interpreted it differently. When you act as if your success is inevitable, fear loses its grip. Not because challenges disappear, but because obstacles stop being threats and start becoming training. Abraham Lincoln understood this. Before history remembered him as a legend, his life was filled with loss, business failures, years of debt, personal heartbreak, 8 lost elections, 8. And yet through every setback he carried himself like a man destined for something greater. He didn't treat failure as a verdict. He treated it as preparation. Where others saw proof they weren't enough, he saw education for the role he would one day fulfill. You must develop that same mindset. So when the challenge shows up, and it will, ask yourself this: how would I act right now if I knew with absolute certainty that my success was guaranteed. Feel what happens immediately. Fear loosens. Curiosity replaces hesitation. Action replaces paralysis. And it shows up in how you speak. No more. I'll try. No more. I hope. Those are the words of doubt. Replace them with certainty. I will. I am. Because language is identity in motion. And the more you speak like the person you are becoming, the faster reality adjusts to meet you. So stop talking about your projects like they're guesses or maybes. Speak about them as inevitable outcomes unfolding on schedule. This isn't wordplay. This isn't positive thinking. This is neurological reprogramming. The way you speak determines how your brain interprets challenge. Certainty turns problems into logistics. Doubt turns the same problems into threats. Move through the world as if your success has already been recorded, written into the cosmic ledger, just waiting for you to arrive and claim it. That mindset doesn't remove obstacles. It redefines them. Every setback stops being proof of inadequacy and becomes confirmation that you're doing the work required for mastery. Because failure is never final, unless you decide it is. Every temporary defeat carries the seed of an equal or greater benefit. When viewed through the lens of inevitability, rejection? That's often redirection. Delay? That's usually preparation. And when you act as if you cannot fail, not from arrogance, but from unshakable certainty that you can extract value from anything, you start moving differently. You take bolder actions. You persist where others quit. You attempt what fearful minds label impossible. Not because you don't fail, but because you've redefined failure as necessary training. The greatest achievements in human history didn't come from people who avoided failure. They came from people who outgrew their fear of it. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in its presence. So begin today from this conviction. Your success is inevitable. And watch as obstacles that once felt insurmountable turn into stepping stones toward your destiny. Now this is where it becomes real. Most people wildly overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. That illusion keeps them chasing breakthroughs, while ignoring the true engine of transformation. Small, consistent actions performed daily. Your life isn't shaped by rare, dramatic decisions. It's shaped by the quiet choices you make every single day. Those choices, compounded over time, become your destiny. That's why daily rituals matter. When your daily habits align with your highest vision, you stop preparing for success and start living from it. These rituals don't just build results, they rebuild your self-image. And once your identity changes, behavior follows automatically. No force, no motivation, no willpower battles. just alignment. And alignment creates momentum. Momentum creates belief. Belief creates reality. Nick Saban understood something most people never grasp. When he took over programs that were talented but inconsistent, he didn't start by promising championships. He didn't talk about trophies, rankings, or future glory. He talked about the process. Because Saban knew this. Championships are not achieved, they are revealed by what you do daily. He didn't just coach plays. He engineered identity. Players were taught to focus on one thing and one thing only. Doing their job at the highest possible standard right now. No scoreboard watching. No future tripping. No excuses. And above all, Saban demanded that his players own the space their feet occupy. That meant total presence. Total effort. Total accountability in the moment they were standing in. Practice wasn't casual. It was precise. Fundamentals were drilled relentlessly not because they were flashy, but because excellence is built on mastery of the basics. How they showed up mattered. How they spoke mattered. How they carried themselves in meetings, in class, in the facility, all of it mattered. Not as image, as conditioning. They were expected to behave like champions before championships ever arrived. That wasn't control. That was identity alignment. And the results spoke for themselves. Because when you trust the process long enough, outcomes have no choice but to follow. You must create your own version of this. Your own championship rituals. Start with how you show up each morning. Dress slightly above the level your current position requires, not for approval, but as a signal to yourself. It tells your subconscious, I'm moving forward. And that shift changes how you think, how you act, how you perform. Next, own your environment. Organize your workspace like someone operating at the next level of responsibility. Remove clutter that communicates distraction or mediocrity. Your environment is always talking to you. Make sure it's reinforcing growth, not limitation. Then curate your inputs. Listen to the conversations your future self would engage in. Study ideas at the level you intend to operate. Not passively. Intentionally. Because repeated exposure rewires perception. And finally, end each day with reflection. Document what you did well, not as steps towards success, but as evidence of the person you are becoming. That subtle shift from chasing outcomes to reinforcing identity accelerates transformation faster than metrics ever will. Trust the process. Own the space your feet occupy. When the moment you're standing in, do that long enough, and success stops being a goal and starts becoming your standard. Be prepared for this to feel uncomfortable at first. Awkward. Forced. Maybe even fraudulent, like you're pretending to be someone you're not. Good. That discomfort is not a warning sign. It's confirmation. It means you're pressing against the edges of your current identity. Growth does not happen in comfort. It happens in identity friction. psychology calls this cognitive dissonance the tension between who you believe you are and how you're now choosing to act. And your mind will not tolerate that tension for long. So it adapts. If you persist day after day, your nervous system begins to recalibrate. What once felt unnatural becomes familiar. What once required effort becomes automatic. You are literally reconditioning your brain. Neural pathways that once demanded conscious force strengthen through repetition. Eventually, championship behaviors stop feeling like discipline and start feeling like who you are. And that's the turning point. Because once excellence becomes your default, results stop feeling miraculous and start feeling inevitable. Understand this clearly. Extraordinary achievement is not built through occasional heroic bursts of effort. It is forged through mundane daily rituals, performed with ruthless consistency and absolute intention. Now this is where most people fall short. They underestimate the power of language. Language is not just how you communicate. It is the architecture of your reality. The words you use don't simply describe your world. They shape the neural pathways through which you interpret it. Your vocabulary trains your brain how to see, how to decide, how to act. So if you're going to act as if you've already achieved your goals, your language must match that identity. That means eliminating weak, uncertain speech. No more. I'll try. I hope. Maybe. Those are words of hesitation. Words of escape. Replace them with decisive language. Clear. Certain. Committed. I will. I am. This is happening. Not arrogance. Alignment. Because decisive language creates decisive thinking. Decisive thinking produces decisive action. And decisive action repeated long enough creates a life that no longer looks like chance, but destiny. History offers few examples more powerful than Winston Churchill in revealing the true force of language. Britain stood on the brink. Europe was falling. The British Army had barely escaped annihilation at Dunkirk. Defeat was not a theory, it was a probability. And in that moment, Churchill made a decision that altered history. He did not speak in the language of hope. He did not speculate. He did not hedge. He stood before Parliament and declared, "We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender." Those words were not motivation. They were psychological architecture. They built a mental fortress so strong that even a superior military force could not reach it. Through decisive language, Churchill transformed an objectively desperate situation into a narrative of inevitable victory through temporary adversity. That is the power you must learn to wield. Because the same principle applies to your life. Your language does not merely describe reality. It creates the framework through which reality is interpreted. So the first discipline you must adopt is vigilance over your words. Conduct a ruthless audit of your habitual speech. Listen for phrases that weaken your resolve. I hope. I'll try. Maybe. I should. I might. With luck. These phrases quietly program hesitation into your nervous system. Replace them with declarations. I am. I will. I know. I choose. I create. Now feel the difference. I hope to close that account this quarter. Versus I will close that account this quarter. One prepares your mind for disappointment. The other activates focus, certainty, and resourcefulness. This is not semantics. This is neurological programming. And it goes deeper. Pay close attention to the questions you ask yourself, especially under pressure. Because questions are commands. Your brain is a solution-finding machine. It will answer whatever you ask, whether the question empowers you or undermines you. Stop asking, why is this happening to me? Why is this so hard? Those questions trap you in victimhood. Replace them with questions that presuppose success. How can I use this to my advantage? What's the most effective move right now? How specifically will I succeed? Notice the shift. Your focus moves from problems to solutions, from obstacles to opportunities. Because language is not just how you communicate with others. It is the operating code of your subconscious mind. Every word you speak is an instruction to your nervous system, telling it how to interpret the world and how to respond. And when you consistently use the language of achievement, you install success patterns that eventually become automatic. So begin today. Listen to your internal dialogue. Monitor your external speech. And when you catch language that contradicts who you are becoming, reframe it immediately. Yes, it may feel artificial at first. That's not failure. That's transition. With repetition, decisive language becomes instinct. And instinct becomes identity. Because words create worlds. Choose yours as if you've already become the person you aspire to be. And watch as reality reorganizes itself to match your declarations. In your pursuit of extraordinary achievement, there is a force more powerful than motivation, discipline, or even talent. Your environment. Human behavior, like water flowing downhill, follows the path of least resistance. And that path is shaped every single day by the people, places, information, and objects that surround you. Your environment is never neutral. It is either reinforcing your highest aspirations or quietly contradicting them until they erode. If you are serious about acting as if you've already achieved your goals, you must engineer an environment that validates your future identity, not one that keeps dragging you back to your past. Few understood this better than Andrew Carnegie, an impoverished immigrant who rose to become one of the wealthiest individuals in human history. Carnegie was once asked the secret behind his unprecedented success. He didn't point first to intelligence, or effort, or luck. He pointed to what he called the mastermind principle, the deliberate act of surrounding himself with minds superior to his own in specific domains. Carnegie knew something most people never realize. Personal limitations can be transcended through environmental design. And here's the part that matters most. He didn't wait until he was successful to surround himself with exceptional thinkers. He did it on the way up, long before the fortune, long before the recognition. He associated with people who spoke, thought, and operated at levels he aspired to reach. He understood this truth. Environmental elevation must precede personal elevation. Now it's your turn. Begin with a simple but confronting exercise. Take inventory of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Their attitudes, their beliefs, their standards. Together, they form an unconscious baseline that your mind naturally gravitates toward. If that baseline doesn't match where you're going, you don't need to burn bridges. But you do need to build new ones. Seek mentors who have already walked the path. Join communities where your goals are normal, not outrageous. Immerse yourself in the thinking of people who've overcome what you're facing now. And when necessary, lovingly but firmly create distance from those who consistently doubt your vision or reinforce limitations. This is not arrogance. This is psychological self-preservation. You wouldn't plant a seed in toxic soil and blame the seed for not growing. Your physical environment matters just as much. Your workspace, your clothing, your tools, your surroundings. They are constantly sending messages to your subconscious about who you are and what you deserve. So organize your workspace like someone already operating at the next level. Dress in alignment with where you're going, not just where you are. Invest in tools your future self would naturally use. Yes, this may feel uncomfortable at first, even presumptuous. Good. That discomfort means you're challenging your current identity instead of staying trapped inside it. Every environmental upgrade is a pattern interrupt. Breaking old habits, old thoughts, old limits. Because consciousness moves toward its dominant focus. And when you surround yourself with the symbols, standards, and embodiments of success, your dominant thoughts shift from limitation to possibility, from hesitation to execution. Your environment becomes a reinforcement system for your new identity, delivering thousands of silent confirmations every day that you are becoming who you've decided to be. So start now. Identify one element of your environment, human or physical, that most contradicts the person you are becoming. Operate it within the next 7 days. One change is all it takes to start a cascade. Now understand this final truth. Acting as if is not passive. It is not wishful thinking. And it is not visualization without movement. Authentic embodiment of success demands bold, inspired action. Taken from certainty, not desperation. That difference changes everything. Because action taken from fear repels. Action taken from alignment attracts. And when thought, identity, environment, language, and action move in the same direction. Ordinary effort produces extraordinary results. That is how transformation accelerates. That is how the impossible becomes inevitable. Examine closely how Ray Kroc transformed the restaurant industry. When he discovered the McDonald Brothers' efficient little restaurant in San Bernardino, California, he wasn't yet a titan of industry. He was a 52-year-old milkshake machine salesman, facing health problems, financial strain, and a lifetime of setbacks. Most people in his position would have settled. Most people would have said, maybe next time. Not Ray Kroc. Something distinguished him from every other ambitious, struggling individual: his operational mindset. From the moment he met potential partners, investors, and employees, he conducted himself with the strategic vision and unwavering confidence of someone who already presided over a global empire. He didn't negotiate from fear. He didn't act from desperation. He projected certainty about McDonald's inevitable dominance. Every word, every decision, every priority reflected not his current reality but the reality he had already claimed internally. This wasn't delusion. This was strategic embodiment, acting as if the future you desire is already here. And when you operate from that place, the universe responds. Doors open that were previously closed. Resources appear where there were none. Opportunities magnetized to you. Here's how you implement this. First, create a detailed profile of your evolved self. What time do they wake up? How do they structure their calendar? What standards govern their professional interactions? Which investments of time, energy, and money are non-negotiable? Then collapse time. Act immediately. If your future self would call 5 clients before breakfast, do it tomorrow. If they would allocate 10% of income towards strategic investments, do it with your next paycheck. If they would delegate low-value tasks to focus on high-leverage activities, restructure your workflow today. Notice this: it's not the actions themselves that produce results. It's the consciousness from which they originate. Act from desperation, and even the right actions yield little. Act from unshakable certainty, already being the person who naturally achieves, and those same actions become magnetic. Others sense it. Your subconscious communicates certainty before your words do. People respond differently. Doors open. Resources flow. Opportunities arrive. Science backs this. Genuine certainty, distinct from arrogance, alters communication patterns, micro-expressions, and physiological signals, signaling trustworthiness and competence to everyone around you. Here's the actionable step. Audit yourself. Where are your actions incongruent with the person you are becoming? Are you postponing behaviors your future self would consider fundamental? Are you tolerating standards your evolved self would reject? Eliminate that dissonance today. Synchronize your external actions with your internal vision. Aligned actions build internal certainty. Internal certainty strengthens magnetic action. Magnetic action attracts even greater opportunities. Certainty is not built through affirmations. It is cultivated through congruent action. Each time you act in alignment with your highest vision, especially when circumstances don't yet support it, you forge neurological pathways of certainty. Eventually, what begins as deliberate embodiment becomes your natural operating system. Start now. Identify one significant action your successful future self would consider non-negotiable. No excuses, no waiting, no outside validation. Execute it immediately. This single alignment will transform your energetic signature, opening pathways to achievements previously beyond your reach. Remember, at the core of acting as if is unwavering belief. Not wishful thinking. Not intellectual agreement. Bone-deep conviction that transcends circumstances. Build this foundation and everything else, every principle of success, becomes inevitable. Henry Ford revolutionized manufacturing with the assembly line, when every so-called expert insisted it couldn't be done. His famous words, "Whether you think you can or think you cannot be right," weren't just a clever saying. They were a fundamental operating principle, the mindset that allowed him to transform an entire industry. Ford believed in his vision with such intensity that temporary setbacks couldn't shake him. He didn't wait for external validation. He didn't let doubt dictate his actions. You must cultivate that same unshakable belief in your own vision. Start small. Collect evidence that supports your belief instead of contradicting it. Document every win, no matter how minor. Study the people who overcame obstacles similar to yours. Practice gratitude for progress, not frustration for the gap between where you are and where you want to be. When doubt inevitably creeps in, remember it's just a thought pattern, not a verdict on your potential. Challenge it, says who? What if the opposite were true? What evidence am I ignoring? Belief is a choice, and perhaps the most important choice you'll ever make. Choose to believe in your capacity to achieve your desires, and watch your reality begin to reorganize itself around that conviction. Here's the science behind it. The mind doesn't distinguish between actual experience and vividly imagined experience. That's why visualization is so powerful. It forms neural pathways identical to physical practice. Olympic athletes mentally rehearse their perfect performance thousands of times before stepping onto the field. By game day, their nervous system has already experienced success repeatedly. Their performance isn't luck, it's a physical expression of what they've already achieved in their mind. This principle applies to everything: business, relationships, health, personal development. The entrepreneur who sees their company's success as inevitable operates differently. They make bolder decisions. They attract better talent. They persist through challenges that would crush someone plagued by doubt. Conviction isn't invisible, it radiates. People sense it in your posture, your tone, your decision-making. Opportunities flow to certainty. Doors open to the confident, while hesitation leaves you standing outside. But here's the critical point. Acting as if is not magical thinking. It requires tangible action aligned with belief. It means preparing for the promotion before it's offered. Investing in the skills for a business you haven't started yet. Treating your body with the respect due to the health you want, not the health you have. Act as if. Decide. Commit. Move now. The gap between where you are now and the vision of your future can feel massive. You look at it and think, how on earth will I get there? This is where most people quit. Most people crumble. Most people settle. But not you. Not today. When that gap feels insurmountable, return to your foundation of belief. Ask yourself, what would the person who has already achieved this goal do right now? Then do it. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it feels impossible, even if everything in your world screams, no. Maintain this practice. Stick to it even when evidence contradicts your vision. Because the universe often tests your resolve before it rewards you. Those who abandon belief at the first sign of resistance never discover what could have been. Every great achievement began as an impossibility. The 4-minute mile? Deemed physically impossible until Roger Bannister broke it in 1954. And then, others followed. The barrier wasn't physical, it was psychological. Your limiting beliefs? They're no different. They only exist because you accepted them as truth. Question them relentlessly. Replace them intentionally with beliefs that serve your highest aspirations. Act as if your success is already certain. Speak, think, decide, and move as if you've already become the person you aspire to be. Keep doing it, and one day, you'll realize you're no longer pretending. Look at Walt Disney. Walking through the orange groves of Anaheim, he didn't just dream. He described Disneyland in vivid detail. He expressed gratitude as if it already existed. That vision carried him through countless rejections and setbacks. You must develop this same future-focused gratitude. End each day by writing 3 specific things you're grateful for regarding your goal, not as something you hope will happen, but as something already accomplished. Feel the emotions these achievements would generate. Express gratitude for the person you're becoming. Express gratitude for the obstacles they are forging your character, sharpening your resilience. This practice does something remarkable. It programs your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters the world to notice opportunities aligned with your vision. It generates the positive emotions that fuel peak performance. And most importantly, it bridges the gap between your present self and your future self, allowing you to draw strength, courage, and wisdom from the person you're becoming. Remember this. Gratitude is the antidote to fear, scarcity, and doubt, the very emotions that stop most people from acting as if their dreams are already real. By living in gratitude for your future achievements, you create an emotional environment where your aspirations can take root and flourish. When you give thanks for something not yet manifested, you align your subconscious mind with your conscious desires. And your subconscious, that's the part that drives your habits, emotions, and decisions, is what ultimately determines your success. History proves this works. Muhammad Ali declared himself the greatest long before the world agreed. Entrepreneurs express gratitude for loyal customers before making their first sale. Artists appreciate their gallery showing before finishing their collection. Start small. Start now. Choose one area where you seek transformation. Each morning, visualize this change as complete. Express specific, detailed gratitude for this new reality. Feel it in your body. Carry it with you through the day. Obstacles will come, they always do. But now, when they do, ask, how would my future self handle this? Express gratitude for the lesson. Express gratitude for the opportunity to grow stronger. Turn what could have been defeat into a stepping stone toward mastery. Consistency beats duration. 3 minutes of focused, Emotion-rich gratitude every day will get you further than sporadic hour-long sessions ever will. Create triggers upon waking, before meals, before sleep. Your future is created twice, first in your imagination, then in reality. Future-focused gratitude keeps your blueprint vivid and emotionally compelling. Practice it relentlessly, and watch as your external world gradually bends to match the vision you hold inside.